Yeah, that's why KI is just so beautiful, because it invites us, right? It invites us into our bodies more. And if we can't be in our bodies, then, then there's stuff to unload, stuff to liberate, so we can be lighter and be able to actually sit down and just be with whatever is arising in an actual direct experience. And that's the beauty. I think I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but then I'm going to just open up and see what spontaneously comes up, as any one of you, want to direct me in any direction. So yeah, it's just okay. So this I am sense that, that is a portal to the here and now, because it's always happening. It's uninterrupted. It's always here. It's the only thing that is always here, actually, if we start examining our experience. Because a lot of things that we think we are, and we try to grasp onto, or try to project, or try to prolong, and make who and what we are, the existence itself, into a projected story, a projected concept, that never lasts. So therefore, we're like constantly looking for something actual, permanent, something real, because none of it makes sense, because we never really arrive by grasping onto an idea or a thought about ourselves. And that's what's just this coming back to, okay, what is really happening? What is really, really true? And and I think, yeah, there is this, actually, I just opened, which was really interesting. Anyway, I'll read it a little bit later, Moving Beyond a Meditator, and it's just about meditative self-inquiry. But there's a little part that I want to kind of read from now, from Ramana Maharishi. So he was saying, like, let what comes come, let what goes go, find out what remains. And that's basically exactly what I'm saying. This I amness, if we get curious about it, we can start notice that no matter what happens and what changes, even when the storm of this trying to project myself as something in the future, trying to fix this broken self to something in the future, when that for a moment comes down, and even in the midst of that, I can still notice that there is something here. There's this isness, there's this space in which things just come and go. Let what come comes, let what go goes. And see what truly remains. And this is kind of got me very curious, when I was a kid, and it was kind of interesting when I was celebrating birthdays, and my mom will ask you, okay, how do you feel? Or someone will ask me, how do you feel? Do you feel bigger? Do you feel older? And it felt really weird, because how I felt the same, just the same all the time, never ever changed. Apart, okay, my body is older, my ideas are different, my desires are different, and these things come and go. But this kind of essence of who and what we are is always the same. And so how we get beyond the thinking and into beyond the thinking and into more of the actual direct experience of that felt sense. And for all of us, the beauty is actually the invitation of KI and the KI practice. And it's not necessarily that in my case, I arrived to this kind of palpable, constant sense of presence. But I also see the possibility with KI to arrive at neutrality, to arrive. And just recently, I have again, another client that I work with, and we kind of do both things. We do processing and the waking up process. And she was just sharing that I never had an experience of who and what I am. And then she's sharing with me this intense emotions that came up for her, and this just the beauty of meeting, the raw emotions without trying to get away from them. And then she said, well, and with that, there is this interesting piece in the awareness part that watches it all. There's interesting just calmness. And I'm like, well, there. It's not rainbows and fireworks and, like these extreme ideas of that our mind created, not blindly. I wouldn't say that we don't have access. The more present we are, I don't say we don't have access to states of bliss and intense contentment and just connection, deep intimacy. But that's not the constant. The constant is the just being here, just being present, just this calmness of the background of existence beyond all understanding. And that is reachable and palpable and really possible to really start paying attention when we do KI. Exactly like Ramana saying, let what comes come. Like, okay, work with resistance, learn how to do that. Learn how to include resistance so that it can also soften, so that it can remove and let go of its guard. So let what comes, let what goes. And see what remains. Then that's the invitation with KI as well. Okay, so if I'm seeing I'm not a word, I'm not a picture, I'm not a sensation, I'm not the most intense emotion. And at the same time, yes, I'm not all this, but at the same time, the more I learn that I am this vast I amness, the felt sense of presence, the felt sense of just seeing, the seer, the hearer, the experience, and the knower of things coming and going. If I know that more and more when I do KI, then I can even start learning that when emotions arise and how to really liberate them, I almost can let them, those emotions and those sensations and that energy of the past, I can almost let it to possess this whole experience, to be what it was in awareness. So to really re-experience fear that was back then when I was 6 years old, to really re-experience the shame that was back then when I was, again, those formative years. But instead of now, because I know this vastness that I am is not going to be hurt, damaged, or anything, I can so lean forward and so become any of these to the fullest of my capacity, so that life consciously re-experiences everything, really consciously. And when I consciously, as awareness, as I amness, this existence that I am, when I am consciously meeting all these shadow parts of myself that I used to repress, avoid, neglect, reject, resist. So when I consciously invite that in and become the felt sense of just this presence, allowance, and the automatic letting go, in that moment, I can also start noticing, wow, when this passes, when the storm, when this possession of being the shame passes through fully because it was fully allowed, then there's just even greater peace here because there's just this intimacy with whatever is arising for you in sessions, more and more with the capacity to hold space, more and more from presence, from I amness, from the actual felt sense of existence. So therefore, when we actually nourish both the processing and the waking up, meaning remembering and being more and more with the felt sense of who and what I am, whether I'm washing dishes, I'm just going to be present here, whatever it is, not necessarily holding the I am, but what if I just make all the sense perceptions a portal into here and now? What if I just, not to try to imagine how I merge with water. My mind used to do that. Oh, if I wash dishes and I be mindful, then I'm going to feel how I'm merging with water. No, it's ridiculous. It's like, okay, what I'm feeling actually is wetness. Oh, okay, there's wetness. Okay, there is soapiness and slipperiness. So all these things without necessarily translating them into the actual meaning in the raw experience of direct experience, they just bring us here and now over and over and over again. So all of these ways, being with nature, being with our pets, it's just whatever it is that brings you here now, just do more of that, because the waking up and the processing of KI, which is the clearing up, coming together, then we don't need to, we have the capacity to be with those raw emotions that have been hiding for years. When we get the skills, or we get the skillful facilitator, or we learn the tools to self-facilitate. So when we can bring that, we don't need to look too much. Like, we can fully allow the raw experience of the intense trauma to come and be here without repressing it, or without trying to push it away, but actually attentively listen to it. And when we do it, maybe once, maybe twice, maybe, I don't know, for a month or two, but then it doesn't need to come back again, because it was so received in awareness, it no longer needs to remain unconscious. So therefore, kind of building the two muscles of processing, meaning being in the body, knowing how to identify different energies, knowing to identify effort, how to identify resistance, how to identify anything, just the energies settling, the energies moving, how to be all together, how to feel. Nobody really teaches us how to feel, like just out there in the wellness kind of arena, they say, you need to feel your emotions. But how do we really feel them? What is the real, how do I say, liberating way of being with our emotions? Yeah, and all of that is really available here. And that's kind of, for me, it's just fascinating how these very, very simple tools, bring up, and they become so super sharp that they can teach us how to really allow things to be as they are, how to really let what comes come and what goes go. Because all of a sudden there is a more skillful way, not just being, okay, I'll just feel, but whatever is happening, we're not really attuned to just feeling and just being with direct experience. There is actually layers upon layers of protection that don't really allow us to really be there. They're unconscious. They don't want us. And we can, with simple things, that's the beauty of KI, with simple questions that you can just drop there. Okay, let this be here forever. I don't mind. The resistance comes up. Oh, yes, I do mind. Oh, yes, I don't want to feel this. And da-da-da-da-da. So before we can be and actually feel what's underneath all these protections, the angers, maybe anger could be repressed, but anger could be a form of protection. So before we even can go down there and actually feel and be with that, so if we really build that self-awareness and that ability to be with things without being distracted, without being just actually being here and now with direct experience. And the direct experience, again, just kind of like the last thing, and I'm going to stop talking. The last thing is just direct experience is stopping to interpret reality. And the more we become curious of how we directly experience reality, the more we can actually start naturally shifting more and more into curiosity, as opposed to like just a habit of mind noise in the head. So the more we shift into the curiosity about what's really going on. And KI is beautiful to teach us direct experience, right? Because direct experience it's not a memory, it's not an actual like I'm not in the past, which the mind and the psychology and the mechanism of body and sensations all merged would tell me that. But no, it's actually just pictures. Let's even break it down even more. It's just colors and forms arising right here and now. From right here and now, they don't have, the past does not exist anymore. Everything exists here and now. So the only thing what we do is like constantly give it that life over and over and over again. And we start kind of noticing that it only becomes alive when we actually give it that meaning, when we give it that light of who and what we are, the presence, the existence that we are. So if we project our existence, the palpable presence that we are into a word or into a picture, it feels alive. So when we strip everything down to actual direct experience, we start to understanding, okay, so picture arises, okay, I can hold it in awareness. So words arise, I can hold that. And don't get me wrong, sometimes we really fully need to go into actual energetic memory of it and relive that 5-year-old trauma, shock, and whatever, and let it be expressed. So it's not just, okay, it's just a word, it's just a picture. But it is a word and a picture and a sensation here and now. And even the energy of that child, this confusion is an energy that arises here and now. So this is the direct experience. So when we start taking the direct experience into, and direct experiences, of course, like again, coming back to the I amness, the direct experience is also, all of this is rising within this presence of vigilance, as if the whole inside is aware of itself, is hearing, is sensing, is feeling. There's that capacity with our eyes closed to really have all that. With even our ears closed, we can hear on the inside. We can see on the inside, we can feel. So there's this presence that is here. And if we examine it in direct experience, we can start noticing that it's synonymous, or that is one and the same with the sense of existence. They go together. They're just one thing, as if it's like two sides of the same coin. On one side is this existence, the presence, and on the other side, it's this vigilance that is always here. But, so this is the direct experience. So if I start to translate, so if I start to get curious of direct experience when I'm with my eyes open and outside of KI session, maybe I can start being more in my body. Because that's the fascination was with waking up. It's like, oh, finally, my consciousness is not looking through the lens of the mind. It's actually looking or feeling through the ability of perceiving the world through the heart, as if my eyes descend here. And there's this ability to feel through the world, feel through life. So this practice of KI that brings us to actual felt sense, like coming back to this I amness and not thinking about the I amness, but actually feeling, experiencing it in direct experience. The same thing translates into, okay, how can I start bringing this waking up into my day-to-day waking hours? And it would be, okay, I can maybe assign small tasks, or whenever I feel like the spontaneous remembering of this invitation, I can descend, I can just say, okay, no, thank you, mind, I'll come back to you. Don't insult it, because it's gonna get rageful. So you can like be very gentle. So I'll come back to you. Thank you for reminding me of all these things I need to do, or all these things I did, because it's just a chatter. And then you can come down and, okay, what am I feeling about what I'm seeing? Or what am I feeling about this interaction, or this person, or this environment? What am I feeling about this room? How does it feel? Does it feel spacious? Does it feel intense? Does it feel, you know? So it's just like, how am I? Start feeling yourself through life. Stop thinking. And it's not stop thinking because the thinking will stop. No, not at all. It's when we shift. And this is mastering the mind, actually. When you tell the mind what to do or not to do, meaning, I am not paying attention to you right now. What I'm most important for me right now is actually the direct experience of the present moment, at least for the next 5 minutes. So you start training the mind that your attention is not like gone with the wind. With the mind constantly, any thought, boom, that's you off your feet, and awareness is gone. So no, slowly start getting the rails back. Like, okay, for now, for the next 5 minutes while I'm taking a shower, I'm just gonna pay attention to actually, what am I feeling? How does this feel to take a shower? And if the mind takes you over, it's okay, thank you, mind. I'll get back to you. I wanna feel. And come back, and come back. And what this feeling portal does, it starts bringing you more and more into here and now. And it also starts bringing you more and more out of your head. And it starts bringing you more and more into actually start noticing that it's not just feeling the water on yourself, but you can start noticing that there is an actual presence here that is experiencing all of this. There is an actual felt of existence that's going to be much more available to you again and again and again. And it just kind of builds the ability and the capacity to feel what we are. Because there is a felt sense to I am, which is a beautiful thing, which is like, wow, this itself by Ramana and his more existential kind of self-inquiry is staying with the felt sense of who and what I am. Who am I? So it's just staying with the isness. So staying with the isness, the beauty is, it's actually a felt sense as well. There is a presence to it. There is just kind of something here, more in our chest. It's not, cannot really pinpoint it, but there is something that is felt more and more so when we start paying attention. Okay, be quiet. Okay, anyone has any comments, any questions? Any feedback?
I just have to say how beautiful that was. I'm so glad you recorded that. Oh boy, beautiful. I'm so reminded of an experience I had. Breakups in relationships were the most devastating things for me ever. And this one, I got to experience what you're talking about. It just, triggered me. It got deep. It was this wretched grief, and I just let it all out. And it was like tripping, it was really deep. And I recognized, holy smoke, I was sort of out of body, aware of what's going on inside, and aware of what's not changing, this thing that doesn't change. And the only way that I knew there was like the depth of it was that I experienced a heart opening. I mean, it was just, there's this heart opening, which I'll get any way I can get it, And it was like, wow, through this wretched experience, the heart's open. And there was something really good about it. I mean, it's kind of gross, but it's sort of like squeezing the pus out of this body, and then but it was happening while I was in it, going through it. It was so fascinating, and then for me, I also notice after a time the heart closing, and I had no control over that. I really wasn't in any other practice than just meditation, but yeah, you reminded me of that, and it's
Powerful. Wow. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, sometimes these moments of intense grief can be if we at least had some sort of glimpses of our true nature, or even sometimes without any glimpses at all, just kind of, like take the example of what's his name, Eckhart Tolle, right? It's like nothing, no practice whatsoever, and then intense darkness, and just so this moment's actually was so interesting. I'm going to open up to more sharing, but it reminded me I was going through a kind of the whole waking up had already happened, and that's like 4 years into my relationship with my 13-year-old partnership. So we just had our firstborn, and it was kind of interesting because the 24/7 attention to him was diverted to the child, and it was kind of interesting. Again, heartbroken. So he fell in love with this young girl that did pay attention, and with our baby in arms, but already a lot of presence, but still a lot of stuff still was clearing up. And again, that same experience you're talking about was, it was so much jealousy. There was so much pain on both sides. Him that I was not paying attention, and me that he was going with this new girl. And we were just like, had this evening where we were just like crying, and so much pain. And all of a sudden, like, there was like almost nowhere else to go. And it was just so intensely painful, and poof, we're just swallowed by this intense peace. It was just like nothing was touching that. It was just such a grace, really, but through so much pain. It was kind of it's just such a contrast sometimes, right? When we have access to our true nature, sometimes when we are in so much grief, but we already exercised that waking up, right? There is just somehow the capacity is already there. It's just, we could just be swept by, literally by grace, into just where nothing touches. But then again, things close down and life comes back. And then we have these wonderful tools as KI to clear up the mess and stay as much as we can in our open hearts, because they're actually, our hearts are always open. What gets to build around is kind of just the shell. So when the shell falls off, we kind of realize, our hearts were always here to love, and they were always here giving and loving. And of course, in its, how would I say, in this kind of capacity of the universe is constantly exchanging. There's this constant exchange. So it's not just given, it's also receiving, happening automatically. So so it's just that, but it's just practicing. Okay, how can I be here? So if I go out from my door right now, from wherever I live, is it the house, an apartment, can I just kind of remain open? Just maybe for 10 minutes. Or until I meet this next one stranger, can I remain open? And just see energetically how it feels being in the body, instead of, just. So, yes. Hi, Michael. You're muted just.
In my experience, only awareness can be awareness. Mm-hmm. It's your experience also?
Awareness can be awareness?
Only awareness can be awareness.
What else can be that? Everything can only be what it is. Like with, that's kind of like the sometimes, we think that the mind can hijack and take place of something, but what's really happening is like, there's this whole spectrum, the diversity of energies, right? And I always say in KI, when, like something intense comes up, and when we need to reown something so intense, let's say, I'm disgusting, or excuse me, like, I'm a whore. If it arises, imagine reowning that for someone. And there's a tool in KI, and we call it let it feel true. And why I'm going towards that, kind of a little bit away from awareness, is just to point out that pears can only be pears and apples can only be apples. Because when that energy is here, I cannot make it not disgusting, because the energy itself holds disgust. The energy itself is made to be disgust. That's its creation. That's its manifestation. So what's happening inside of us, somehow we think, like, if I'll just take that energy of disgust and somehow I'll just convert it into beauty or into bliss. But that can only happen. It can actually be beautiful and blissful by just accepting it exactly for what it is. And the same thing goes to awareness. Awareness can only be awareness, for sure. There's no, what can hijack that? It's just like there is just awareness happening. And it's not like we can only be what we are. If you're hinting in that, I could definitely, that's the only experience. I cannot know what I am. It's a mystery to itself. I cannot, like, I can give it some attributes. I can start talking about it, but none of the attributes would actually describe it. And it's not because it's poetic. It's because it's actually really, it does not, as soon as it touches it, it just limits it to something, because it's so vast and so unlimited that we cannot just start giving it names. So we can only be what we are, if that's something you're going to, or maybe I'm not understanding your question. Or your observation, perhaps. Am I in the right direction, Michael?
Yeah. In my direct experience, I can inquire into awareness.
You can inquire?
Yeah, into awareness.
Like what?
And in inquiring into awareness, in asking the question like, can I find a border in awareness? Or does awareness have a gender?
Okay, yeah.
Or
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, like this. The direct experience is then the feeling, let's say the feeling on the deepening of awareness becoming more intense.
Yeah.
Inquiry into it.
Yeah, it's true, for sure. Because when on day to day we just got so accustomed that we don't notice. That's the beauty of, like, stopping and having these kind of questions, like, okay, what am I truly?
Yeah, what am I truly?
How existence is known to me right now? How do I know I exist? And all of a sudden the whole attention is folded upon itself. So then, of course, oh wow, okay. Maybe it's accessible, maybe it's very vague, and we start thinking about how we exist. That can happen. That's out of a habit of living through our heads. But if we start noticing and start really feeling, okay, how is it known to me right here, right now? And then, okay, it comes alive more. It comes forefront instead of background.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Shall we meditate, or I'll have another question or sharing? Anyone feels like, yes, Tyson.
I have a question. I don't really know how to ask it though. We talk about like how the body keeps the score, and these built up emotions or sensations from our childhood are in us, and we can get triggered by it and not notice it. throughout the day, but then get triggered by it or bring it up in a session. And like sometimes a lot of the sensations that I have don't feel like me, like anger. Like now I can see that I'm not angry. The anger is like in there. It's just like this wave moving through me. But for other things, I can't quite get there. And I guess my question is like, where is that energy? Where is that energy coming from? You know, like, is it from a long time ago? And how does it come back to our body, or how is it stuck there? Is it just through our awareness and our thinking? Like our thoughts make it there? Or is this making sense?
Yeah. It does. It does. Yeah, it's like, if you would think like for me, in my again, it's coming down again to direct experience. When we kind of wake up, we just kind of understand that there's nothing else actually from what is just here. So there's an idea of time and space. There's an idea of you on the other side of the globe. There's an idea that everyone here is located somewhere. But it's in direct experience, it's almost like this magical mirage arising constantly, arising out of nowhere, coming back out of, disappearing or disintegrating or constantly shifting into nowhere. So things like thoughts, like it's just, okay, we can say they say there is this Akashic memory. So there's like this bank of memory. So we would call it the darkness or the unconscious. And then everyone, I guess, has, I'm guessing because I don't have the direct experience of that. So for me, the direct experience is like things come out of nothing and then disappear into nothing. And this nothing is not a nothing, it's not an empty nothing. This nothing is actually who and what we are. So if you take, the kind of the idea of the cosmos and the black matter, the dark matter, and if without the dark matter, there wouldn't be the actual matter. So if you think of all the thoughts and emotions and sensations and energies they're alive. Everything is alive. Everything has its vibrancy, has its frequency. So all these frequencies arise out of this dark matter and they return into that. So it's just like our individual access to that has our individual capacity to tap into some sort of like a bank, a memory, or an accumulated, whatever some people call it, the soul, something that as a psychological mind, emotion kind of complex that travels through lifetime and lifetime and lifetime. Who and what we are doesn't move anywhere. So you can imagine, again, the dark matter doesn't move anywhere. It's right there. It's the canvas. And what arises out of that explodes as a star, has its life and deploys and just disappears back into nothing. Or matter just cannot really disappear. It actually transforms and transforms and transforms. But the actual ground, this black hole or this black darkness, is this nothingness that we are, and when we experience, when we wake up, it is not a constant experience, like it's always here, but just getting quiet, you can get in touch with that. Just getting quiet, or maybe in my case, there was a glimpse of like being beyond, like being the void, and the void being home, deeper than any homey feeling ever. So it's this, in my direct experiences, I'm saying I cannot just speak of some sort of a concepts around that. It's everything arises out of nothing and everything goes back there. And in this kind of, okay, when I stop personalizing actually anger and indirect experiences, you're saying with anger, you can kind of tap into it. It's not, I am angry. Anger is here. Frustration is here. Confusion is here. Depression is here. Whatever, sadness is here. But then the more, as I'm saying, the more we build that muscle of awareness, the more we start recognizing that we are the space in which everything arises. So we stop identifying and grasping to, I am sad, I am angry, I am hungry. Body is hungry, yeah, for sure. You know, so it's like, so when we kind of like regain our true foundation and essence and our actual location, so to say, it's our location is there's no location to it. In that same sense, you know, like when we hear some teachers, you know, they point like, oh, where do you move? Or like Ramana said when he was passing away, where can I go? Where can I go? So of course, like the actual who and what we are doesn't go, because it is the field, and the field is unmoved. But from that field, you know, fluctuation, this constantly blossoming presence is like. So yeah, it's like this first when everything kind of woke up and I was not able to share because I had so much trauma in my system. I started a blog and I called it Blooming Emptiness, because that was the exact feeling. It's like, okay, what I am is really, really, really empty. Not because it's empty as it's empty, but it's like nothing, something that goes there. It's just back into source, back into becoming nothing. But at the same time, this emptiness is constantly pregnant and constantly giving birth, constantly blossoming, 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 blossoming. The always being and always becoming, as Adyashanti says. There's the only two constants. Where what comes, I don't know.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think it matters where it comes from, but I have these feelings like some of the stuff is like from such a long time ago. And like when I first started KI a few months ago, I was really, really angry with my mom. Yeah. And like, even for her giving birth, and I haven't had like a lot of trauma with my mom, but even for her giving birth to me, because I didn't want to be alive. I did not want to be a human. I did not want to be here. And then, and I was having a lot of pain in my back and neck. And then I just realized that like I chose this, and that her and my ex-husband were both absolute gifts for me so I could move through this, whatever these energies were. And like my pain just disappeared. And it was like such a weird experience. But I want that with now. I can see myself kind of chasing that, like with other like emotions and sensations and feelings, like to have that release. Yeah. And which obviously doesn't help, but yeah.
But yeah, like memory, like if we tap, okay, to something more kind of concrete and explainable, like body carries a memory. Body carries that intelligence of tapping into how exactly it was. So when I do sessions, like as if I want to find the origin, and if I really want to heal, and if I really want to release the vulnerable energy, I would always guide the person to really be in the body, connect with whatever sensation, whatever the contraction or the pain or the emotion, and let that lead you back into how it was. When did you feel it first time, or when did you feel it most intensely? How was it known to you back then? And then just kind of, it starts giving usually pictures and words, and just brings us back there. The body carries kind of that imprint of the shock energetically. So then we can kind of extract that from the energy, from the sensations in our bodies. And you know, underneath, of course, there's maybe packed emotions and sadness and hurt and so on and so on. But it just takes, the body memory can bring us back into those moments, and we can reconnect with that child and how it felt. You know, give words to emotions, you know, what it felt for it, and in that way, kind of bringing that energy alive here, and start acknowledging, you know, its shock, its reality, And it's, you know, it's the insanity that it experienced, really. So start acknowledging and giving it words and giving it the ability to express in a safe space and be met with love and with acceptance, really, and with acknowledgement, then that really liberates some of these past stored energies in our body. And some people I know work with fascia, so it's they say that memory gets stored there. I haven't dived into, you know, that aspect of this work, but I've heard a lot of miracles by people just stretching and moving and deep massages into those areas where emotions got stored.
I do Qigong, and that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, and then some of these things, because I did yoga for a while, and a lot of blockages did entangled through that. But it's interesting how sometimes we really need this more skillful, more precise, more deeper ways of going in there, like kind of like almost on the operating table, to really go deep and get all that unfortunate beliefs that distort our reality.
Yeah, and it seems like this is like, it kind of ties everything I've done before. I've done yoga and Qigong and Tai Bani work and, you know, all those things, but there was never really an awareness there, or it's different now with the KI.
Yeah.
There's much more inquiry and awareness of what is actually happening instead of just doing the yoga. You know, you get instruction on certain things, or even the Qigong, but there's no skillful awareness of what is actually happening. So
yeah, for sure. And as a lot of these wonderful techniques that could have been much more based in awareness, they're just like, you know, passed down just as an exercise and just as a, you know, a tool to get by. Okay, it's just, okay, I'm not as stressful perhaps if I'll do some stretching and I sit on my cushion, and that's what you know, what I'm saying is the same thing. I was just yesterday speaking with this client I work with, and about, you know, waking up and clearing up, and it was really explaining the energy and how we can hack the energy, the seeking energy, so it's not going to take us over and make it into just this experience that we're looking for, and how to use that energy in the most wise and alive way. We need to make it alive. We need to make it kind of like an inquiry, like a live inquiry, and stop at nothing that it's not real. So it's like, okay, reality and nothing else. And it's not just, oh, okay, a blissful experience, and then a blissful experience, and then blissful. No, it's not. That's not it. That's just being used by the ego, because the ego is hiding and wanting something, you know, constantly positive. But it's like, okay, how do you really use that energy? The same thing with these practices. And so coming to KI and just having the awareness piece, I think everything just starts making sense. So it's the same thing, whether we're seeking enlightenment or whatever it is, or peace, or just intimacy and balance in life. It has to be alive. It has to be alive in us. We cannot let it go unconscious and just go for a ride. It's just never going to work. Wonderful. So let's sit and rest. Wow, that was long. Sorry about talking too much. Yeah, it's like, oh, you always like, nothing to say. Okay, so whoever, if by any chance you really need to leave at an hour, you know, like, sorry about being carried away, but it's 20 minutes, the meditation, and we'll end it there. And where's my timer? Okay, perfect. So, meditation. Cool. There's some bells. I'm not sure if you're going to hear them, but if you do hear them and they're very sudden and they kind of scare you, Like, it's actually pretty cool. Just allow the energy to be kind of like an extra anchoring into here and now, whatever it is, fear or just a surprise. So let's get comfortable. So however you're sitting, or if you're laying down, laying down could be tricky because you can fall asleep, but it's okay. It's totally okay because you're still gonna receive some messages. Yeah, if you need to relax, just do that. And anyway, all this is really actually a pause, and that's why it's called natural rest, because it's just really a time to rest for a moment and do nothing. So let's close our eyes. If you need to adjust your body, just take your time for a moment so you can get even more comfortable. And if you find a position where you can really stay still, just do that. Try not to move for the next 20 minutes. Only if you have to. But if we make our body very still, then we can further and further relax it. Relax the whole tensions and relax the limbs. Relax everything into the support, into the seat or the bed or the cushion, wherever you are sitting. So we're just going to start with relaxing all of our head. So we start at the top of the head and just relax the scalp. And then we go down into the forehead and just release all tension here. Eyebrows become very relaxed. The eyes can almost feel on the inside and behind the eyeballs. Things get really, really fully relaxed. Your eyelids become super heavy. And just let go of any tension. We're going into the jaw. Relaxing and even allowing the mouth to be slightly open or the jaw to just drop slightly. Even if you have your mouth closed, there is a way to relax, especially the bottom jaw. Again, just moving down the neck, the shoulders. Shoulders are simply falling and resting, relaxing. No need to carry any backpacks, even emotional ones. We're just going to leave it all for a moment behind. So again, we're moving down with awareness, with our attention down into the chest, relaxing everything here. Moving down into our belly, noticing if there's any disturbance here. And if you notice anything, just let that be. Let it happen. And if anything, just gently invite it and welcome it. Thank you for being here. Whatever you find, if you find any tension, you can just use the thank you phrase. Thank you for rising. I love you. You can stay as long as you like. So when we find tension, it's just tells us that we're still carrying some resistance in that area. That's all. Something we resisted in the past is still alive right here and now. So we're not trying to get rid of anything. We're not trying to push anything away. We are not trying to manipulate our experience, but just simply relaxing deeper and deeper and deeper. So by now, your whole body, your torso, your legs, your knees, your cuffs, your feet, pelvic floor, everything is absolutely relaxed. Your arms and your hands, it's almost like you didn't feel them until I just called and brought your awareness there. They almost didn't exist. So just the whole body becomes this immobile, heavy as a rock. And the mind becomes just, perhaps, less agitated, just as soon as it gets the cue from the body to relax. So as if we're going to sleep, but we're not falling asleep, we're actually remain vigilant and curious. But everything else, the breath, the thoughts, the physical body, and all the energies is simply going to take a moment of rest and relaxation. Exactly what they need. So if the mind becomes busy, then we come back into the anchor of the breath. And just start noticing your breath and anything you can notice about it if you get lost in thought. Otherwise, this particular meditation is going to be about just this felt sense of I am, and the actual direct experience of that. So the first thing to really notice that it's not something that we can achieve. It's not something that we can effort, or it's not something that we can control in any way. But it is something that is always already here, happening all the time. And if it's hard for you to tap into, you can just take the I am statement and very, very slowly, like as slow as you can, repeat that within yourself and try to feel what it's pointing to. Like, I am. It's just this feeling of I. Where is it known? Where am I experiencing it? And can I stay with that feeling? In direct experience, where is it? Is it in my head? This felt sense of existence, I exist. Where is it? Get curious. Is it in my chest? Is it a general sense in my whole body? How is this existence known right now? So in this most direct, most essential, and most fundamental way, who and what am I? And see when you say I really, really slowly, if maybe this I can dissolve into actual felt sense of I, and just stay there for a moment as if frozen with that feeling. Otherwise, if there is a lot of noise and there's a lot of happening, don't try to force anything. Just come back to your breath. Just come back to the curiosity, wanting to know, how does it feel to be you, the real you? What else can you find that is always happening? Can you say that hearing is always happening? Even if you close your ears, would you still hear on the inside? Without interruption, without effort. What else is still happening all the time, right now in direct experience, in a felt sense? Perhaps thoughts may be happening, but they're coming and going. What is constant? What remains? The seeing always happening, even with our eyes closed. We cannot stop seeing. So as soon as the sense of existence comes alive, seeing comes alive, hearing, sensing, feeling. The capacity to all that. So just stay with your direct experience, nothing to force. Again, if anything, is to relax any effort and to just remain curious about what happens in direct experience and how is existence known or experienced right here, right now. So the trick with the actual inquiry of who am I is never an answer, is never a word. What it is, it's actually a key that opens up a self-perception of oneself. Something that opens up the door to the felt sense of presence, the felt sense of I amness. Who am, and the I should be leading me into the felt sense of I. And if you're able to tap into it, just stay with it. Let it be known. Let it be remembered. And then, if you can't sense anything, just kind of tap into how does it feel to be here, to sit here? Just that feeling of sitting here. What does that feel like? And if you can't tap into that, just stay with not knowing. Nothing to do, nothing to figure out. And just rest in the unknown. That could be another portal. So if I'm nothing that is coming out of effort, which is the ego. So if I'm something that's effortlessly already happening, what am I? Find those portals, they're here in plain sight. So it's not something, because thoughts also can come without effort. So it's not something that's coming and going. It's something that is constant. So it's effortless, and constant and always here, already present. So for the next 5 minutes or so, we're simply going to remain in silence. So let your breath be your anchor to here and now. And stay curious, just kind of see, how is this I amness felt here? What is it really pointing to? How am I experiencing it? What is that something that never changed with any birthday I celebrated? What is that feeling? Where is it? How is it known? We're slowly going to come back to the breath. Noticing just breathing without the need to change anything. And if your body needs to stretch or move, you can slowly start accommodating that. You can keep your eyes closed still. At the same time, you can just become aware of the space wherever you are, wherever you're seated, all the points of contact. Just before opening your eyes, you can just set an intention to whatever you need, just kind of plant a seed. So it's just whatever you're working on, whatever you wish to attend. You could just make it into just a little drop of intention. Just even that, continuing spontaneously when it arises, or just a reminder arises, just to stop for a moment in the indirect experience as opposed to our interpretation in our head. You could just plant that as an intention. I'm gonna let direct experience arise within me more and more. Or I'm gonna stay curious about direct experience more and more. And we can slowly, at your own pace, open your eyes whenever you feel ready. If you feel like you arrived at a very quiet space, very relaxed space, you can respect that and just remain with your eyes closed if you feel like. Wonderful. Thank you. I know, Tyson, we're meeting in a few minutes. But are you on schedule or? Yeah.
What's up?
We're meeting, right, with you in 4 minutes or so?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. And Simon, I'll reach out to you, okay? Yeah, hi Vita. Nice of you to join. Wonderful. Hi Dominique, yeah. Big hug to you all and thank you so much. And yeah, I would hang out a little bit more with you guys, but I'm a little bit limited. Jesus, nice to meet you. Where are you? Sweet.
Beautiful session. Anyway, I'm from Spain, but I'm living in UK for a while.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone too.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to hear you. You are lovely. Anyone else has anything you want to share a little bit before we leave? I have a few minutes. Yeah, Mark.
Something Scott has been talking about the Ken Wilber interview at the Buddha at the gas pump, and it's 2 hours, but is wildly profound.
I had the previous talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do recommend. Really worth it. Like, really makes so much sense to just naturally what I felt was more really important, right? The waking up and the clearing up, and in my own way, I also invite my clients that I work with like a lot, like just pushing them forward to start growing up as well. So there's other ways of, mind techniques where we can really, really learn ways to be in the world in much more effortless, but as well as much more impactful and profound way if we work on these aspects of growing up as well. Yeah, so it's fun. Yeah, lovely. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So whoever didn't watch it, I would really recommend.